الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه الطيبين الطاهرين. We ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to grant us the sincere intentions. So we had said that Prophet Isa alayhi salam will descend in Damascus. Now before this, what's going to be happening is that there's going to be a lot of fighting going on. There are going to be a lot of wars that the Muslims will be engaging in, that the Muslims will be fighting alongside Al-Mahdi. So it's going to be a very difficult time. If you remember in our previous session, rather yesterday, we'd mentioned that there would be many malahim that would occur. Al-malahim are these great wars where there will be a lot of blood shed. So there will be a lot of oppression at this time also. The Muslims, many of them, or a large group of them, will be in Bayt al-Maqdis, will be in Jerusalem. And just as the Muslims today in Palestine have been suffering so much, the men, women, children, people losing a son, a daughter, or a whole family. Every single day, people dying in their tens and their hundreds. Subhanallah, that is a lot of dhulm, a lot of injustice that has been occurring, and it will continue. Al-Mahdi, he fights many groups of people. One of the groups that he fights is the Jews. At this time, when Dajjal has been to the outskirts of Al-Madinah, he will then make his way to Jerusalem. He will make his way to Bayt al-Maqdis, where the Muslims will be besieged. They will be surrounded. And remember, we're still at that time in a time at which there is food is scarce. There is one narration that says that Dajjal himself, when attacking the Muslims in Bayt al-Maqdis, Jerusalem, when the Muslims are surrounded and they're being besieged, so for a long period of time, Dajjal stands on a high place, and because it's night time and perhaps it's the light of the moon that is behind him, because he stands in a high place, he can see the Muslims and how they have been trapped in. Such that it's described in one of the narrations that because of the light behind him, his shadow is cast all over the Muslims. And there are some Muslims, the strongest amongst them, who are also suffering from hunger and thirst. The strongest amongst them at this time are those that will either be sitting or they will be resting on something, not laying down, because those ones will be considered the weakest among them. But these ones, the strongest among them, are the ones that are sitting down or resting on something while aiming whatever weapon they have at Dajjal. So this is what will be happening in Baytul Maqdis. So Dajjal will be there after he's been to Mecca and Al-Madinah and not gained entry because the angels are guarding it. Then he will come to fight Al-Mahdi, and with him he will have many groups, and the Jews will be among them. So it will be a very, very desperate time, a very desperate time where many Muslims will feel helpless, just as in the past year you've seen how the Muslims in Gaza, in Palestine have been helpless. Helpless, no food. Yani, likewise water and aid and ceasefire and whatnot, and so it will be a very desperate situation. Prophet Isa alayhi salam will descend, and it's mentioned, there are a number of narrations, so scholars tried to put these narrations together, because the scholars of Al-Islam, they try not to reject narrations, but they try to put them together, to piece them together as much as possible. If it seems like they are two narrations are going against each other, to try to make them work if they can. And this is a great merit to the scholars, the real scholars of the nation of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, such that Sayyiduna Isa alayhi salam, Jesus, he said during his lifetime, or in the past, he's still alive, in the past he said that the scholars of the nation of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, they are so knowledgeable, their knowledge is so deep, so vast, so intricate about the matters of Al-Islam, the way they extract proofs from the stories in the Quran and other hadiths, and through comparative analogy, and just the knowledge that they've been given, and because of the blessings of the Quran and the hadith system that they have that other nations didn't have, how we classify hadiths to be weak or fabricated or strong and so on. He said it is from the great depth of the impressive knowledge of the scholars of the nation of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, that it's as though they are prophets. The prophets, their knowledge is so hundreds and thousands of times more vast than that of any non-prophet, of course. Their knowledge is very deep. Prophet Isa alayhi salam, who is one of the best prophets, he said when he was given a glimpse of the high caliber of the scholars of this nation, he said it is from their understanding, it is as though they are, from their understanding, prophets. Now, if this is the case for the scholars of this nation, then let me speak a little bit about the scholars of this nation. Most people nowadays, who people call scholars, they are not scholars. We, all of us here, we are not scholars. Those that people call scholars nowadays, whether it is in the West or in other countries, most of the people, the overwhelming majority of people are not scholars. Rather, and why is it that we can say that so easily? Because the Prophet told us that, alayhi salatu wassalam. He said that among the signs of the Day of Judgment is that the scholars, most of the scholars would die. He said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, inna Allah la yaqbidu al-ilma intiza'an min al-ibad walakin biqabdi al-ulama. That Allah will not make the knowledge just disappear from the hearts of the people As though one night, one of the knowledgeable scholars, he slept, having the knowledge in his heart, and then he woke up and it disappeared. No. The Prophet was informed that in his nation this would not happen. Rather, knowledge would decrease as a sign of the closeness of the Day of Judgment. And the way that that would happen is by the scholars dying out. Them becoming very small in number such that they would not be known. And then he said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, فَيَتَّخِذُ النَّاسِ رُؤُوسًا جُهَّالًا. And the people would take ignorant people as scholars. And then he said about those people, the ignorant people that act as scholars, he said, فَضَلُّوا. They would be misguided. They would be misguided. Many of them, not even Muslims. فَأَضَلُّوا. He said, and they, because of that, would misguide others. And that is rife today, widespread. We have people today who wear the attire of the Muslims. They might teach in, just around the world, teach in masjids and centers, who say, very recently there was a person who was saying that, saying about alcohol and speaking about alcohol in ways that Muslims do not accept. Then there are people who mention, for example, in the not so distant past, that وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, that it's possible for Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam to make a mistake when it comes to the religious matters. And like this, there have been people in the past who in their books, and they were supposed to be scholars, but they were misguided, who said, for example, that it was possible and that it happened that a devil took control of the tongue of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam and said things praising the idols. This is kufr. And like this, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of statements of misguidance from so-called scholars. Some of the so-called scholars nowadays, unfortunately, they cannot even recite Al-Fatiha correctly. And this is not having a stab at people who are not knowledgeable for no reason. Rather, it's because the Prophet said. Someone asks, look, why are you talking and saying that many people who call themselves scholars are not scholars? Because the Prophet said it. What do you want me to do? Am I not a Muslim? Are you not a Muslim? You want me to hide something the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wassalam? He said, فَاتَّخَذَ النَّاسُ رُؤُوسًا جُهَّالًا. People would take leaders, he said, juhal. They have jahl in them. They are ignorant. And that they are misguided, and they misguide other people. He also said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that there are people, he said, أُنَاسٌ مِنْ جِلْدَتِنَا. There are people who look like us in terms of them wearing the Muslim attire, wearing a hat, having a beard, and so on. يَتَكَلَّمُونَ بِأَلْسِنَتِنَا. They speak with our tongue, meaning that they say, قال الله تعالى, Allah revealed. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, or Al-Bukhari narrated. They speak like us. He said, أُنَاسٌ مِنْ جِلْدَتِنَا يَتَكَلَّمُونَ بِأَلْسِنَتِنَا تَعْرِفُ مِنْهُمْ وَتُنْكِرُ. But you'd be surprised because you see them saying, Allah revealed, and in Surah Al-Baqarah, and talking about Surah Yasin, and so on and so on. And then you find them saying strange things that you know are not true. You find them saying very, very strange things that are against the religion of Al-Islam. The Prophet said about these people, du'atun ala abwabi jahannam. These are like people that are standing at the gates of hell calling people in. He said, man ata'ahum qadhafuhu fiha. Whoever obeys, whoever lends them an ear, whoever listens to these ignorant people, then they will be hurled into the fire with them. So, the Islamic knowledge, it is only taken from a trustworthy and reliable person who learned it from a trustworthy and reliable person. It's not taken from just anywhere, just because someone read something on the internet, or just because they received a message written down or a post that is doing the rounds, and they don't know who it's actually from, they don't know who wrote it, and if it's been verified or it's actually like that. This is not the way knowledge is taken. The Prophet taught us that too. He said, alayhi salatu wassalam, نَضَّرَ اللَّهُ امْرَأً سَمِعَ مَقَالَتِي فَوَعَاهَا فَأَدَّاهَا كَمَا سَمِعَهَا. Allah will illuminate the face of a person who hears my hadiths, meaning learns, sits and learns. There's a way to learn religious knowledge. He said, alayhi salatu wassalam, Ya ayyuhan nas ta'allamu. O people, learn. That's the way that you acquire knowledge. So this is also one of the small signs of the Day of Judgment, that there would be mass ignorance. Mass ignorance with regards to the rules of the religion. And number one, there would be a lot of ignorance with regards to the attributes of Allah. Many people, they would think Allah is in the sky. Many people, wal-'iyadhu billah, they would think that Allah is something that sits, that Allah has a backside, wal-'iyadhu billah. This is their belief. If they say Allah sits, it means that's what they believe. This is kufr. It's an insult to Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Who would say that? But many people, because of watching films or watching TV and so on, they are far away from the Islamic knowledge, they would end up believing things like that. And the Prophet also told us about that, alayhi salatu wassalam, that a time would come that people, they would, if they hear the truth, they would find it strange. When they hear that these matters, saying Allah is in the sky, and saying Allah is something that is up and comes down, and saying that Allah has fingers and hands, if somebody hears that this is kufr, they might say, oh, I've never heard that before. The Prophet told us about that this would happen. The people would say, oh, that's strange. I've not learned that before. But this is the way the Prophet ﷺ explained. So, when Isa alayhi salam descends, and this is the situation, that the Muslims are suffering greatly. There's a difference of opinion about where he goes first, or rather when he descends. Some scholars, they said, looking at one narration, that he would descend at the time of al-dhuhr. So he would descend at the time of al-dhuhr, so it's day. Some said that it would be approximately 6 hours after Fajr begins. Some said it's at the end of al-dhuhr, because there's a narration that he leads some people in prayer. He leads them in the Asr prayer. We're going to get to the Fajr prayer. But he leads some people in the Asr prayer. He will descend in Damascus. And Allah knows best, but now in the eastern part of Damascus, there was, in the 1970s, if I'm not mistaken, as part of the airport, which is in the eastern part of Damascus, there is a white control tower, and Allah knows best. That is, that fits the description of what the Prophet ﷺ mentioned. It doesn't have to be, he didn't say it would be the minaret of a masjid. Rather, it's a tall structure that would be white. And it may be something else, but in that area. So he would descend, alayhi salam, and he is to enter a masjid. In that masjid he would sit, and the Muslims would enter, and the Jews also will attend, some of the Jews, and in a narration, some of the Christians. The Muslims know that this is Prophet Isa alayhi salam. But the Jews will want to know what the truth is. And likewise the Christians will want to know what the truth is. Allah revealed in the Quran that in the life of Prophet Jesus alayhi salam, when he returns, everybody from the people of the book will embrace Islam. Everybody from the people of the book will embrace Islam. As for the followers of Dajjal, now they are a, let's say, different entity. So those people, if it is inshallah soon, people would see that those people that had been Christians, when they see Isa alayhi salam, they will believe in him. They will say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, because he is the final prophet, Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. Then while he is in this masjid, the Asr prayer will come in. And he will lead the people in the Asr prayer. Then he will take the Muslims in Damascus and they will march towards Jerusalem, Bayt al-Maqdis, where many of the Muslims, as we said, have been besieged. They've been trapped by Dajjal and those that are with him. And there will be thousands of people with Dajjal. When the people are in this state of desperation, Prophet Isa alayhi salam and the Muslims, his army, they will reach Bayt al-Maqdis at the time of Sahar. Sahar is just before Al-Fajr. Like when you have Sahur, right? So they will reach there at As-Sahar. And in one narration, it mentions that Isa alayhi salam will say, Ya ayyuhan nas, O people, ما منعكم أن تخرجوا إلى الكذاب الخبيث. What has prevented you, calling the Muslims in that area as well, what has prevented you from coming out and defeating or fighting this evil liar, meaning a Dajjal? The Muslims, when they hear that, their situation will change. They will feel and they will know that help has come from somewhere. Help has come. When they hear his voice, they will say to each other, this is the sound, this is the voice of someone that is very confident. This is the voice of someone blessed. Then, now this is in the morning before Al-Fajr, when it's very peaceful. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Prophet Isa, and you can say about the Prophet, any Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Prophet Isa, then he will say, Ya ma'ashar al-Muslimin, ihmadu rabbakum, O Muslims, praise Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, wa sabbihuhu, and say subhanallah, reminding them. Those learned people at that time, before Prophet Isa alayhi salam descends, they will know, they will be with Al-Mahdi, this scholar, the Khalifa. He will remind them also that at this time in which we are in a famine and drought and so on, we say subhanallah, and if we are sincere, Allah will bless us, Allah will create satisfaction within our stomachs, we won't feel hungry. So this is reaffirmed then by Isa alayhi salam, because he knows their situation. Those Muslims that we had said they would aim their weapon at Dajjal, it's narrated that their hands shake. And they're not even standing, they're weak because of the amount of food that they are eating. Their hands will shake while they're holding their weapons aiming at Dajjal. Imagine they're in this state. Some of them are laying on the floor, some of them might have already died. And there's so many of them. And with Al-Mahdi will be in Bayt al-Maqdis also. And then they hear, Ya ma'ashara al-Muslimin, ihmadu rabbakum wa sabbihuh. They hear that from the blessed mouth of Isa alayhi salam. They hear it from a distance. Ya ma'ashara al-Muslimin, ihmadu rabbakum, sabbihuh. Say Subhanallah. So then the Muslims, they start saying, Subhanallah, Subhanallah, Subhanallah. These very Muslims, before Isa alayhi salam comes to them from the dark of the night, before the Muslim army, it comes to support them, when they are not able to fight anymore and they are under the shadow of Dajjal, he's just looking at them, intimidating them, waiting for them to come out so that they can be destroyed. They gather together and they say to each other that we have been beleaguered for a long time. And until when will we suffer in this situation, being besieged? So now they, all together, they are determined and they say, let us go out and fight the enemy. Let us have the last battle. They said, either it's going to be a shahada, either we're going to attain martyrdom, or mercy would be had upon us and we will conquer them. There is nothing except these two. Either death or victory. Let's get it over with. So they agree, all of them. Then it's narrated that at that very point in time, when that happens, it's already in the night. It becomes very dark, such that it's narrated that one of them would not be able to see, one of the Muslims, would not be able to see his hand in front of him. After a short while, the darkness goes away and they see someone with them that had not been with them before. They ask this person, who are you? And he says, Ana Abdullahi wa kalimatuhu Isa. I am the slave of Allah, and I am the truth that Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala sent. He says, اختاروا إحدى ثلاث. Pick one of three. So they had said there are only two choices, martyrdom or we gain victory. But Isa alayhi salam says to them, اختاروا إحدى ثلاث. أن يبعث الله على الدجال وجنوده عذابا جسيما. Either you pick that I make dua and Allah destroys Dajjal and those that are with him and inflicts upon them an excruciating torture. Number one. أو أن يخسف الله بهم الأرض. Or it is the case that Allah Ta'ala makes the earth split and swallow them. Or number three, أو يرسل عليهم سلاحكم ويكف سلاحهم عنكم, or we fight them and we destroy them and they are not able to harm us. So they say, after they've been trapped and starved, besieged and oppressed and attacked for so long, they say, هذه يا رسول الله, هذه يا رسول الله أشفى لصدورنا, O Messenger of Allah, Prophet Isa alayhi salam, O Messenger of Allah, this last one, this is something that pleases our hearts, that we want to fight them for the sake of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Before the Prophet Isa alayhi salam comes, before he descends, we had said that Al-Mahdi would fight the Jews, but and he would defeat many of them. But they would still be attacking the Muslims during the time of Al-Mahdi. When Prophet Isa alayhi salam descends, and then as he is going to Bayt al-Maqdis with the Muslims, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala at the end of times will grant him an ability, which is that as far as his eye can see, as far as his vision goes, whoever comes into contact with this, the blessed and the lovely fragrance, breath of Prophet Isa alayhi salam, whomever it reaches, and it reaches as far as the eye can see. This is something that is special for him when he descends. It will reach as far as the eye can see. Whoever amongst the kuffar, and it's narrated that some of them will be in their villages, some of them will be waiting to attack as they move from Damascus to Jerusalem. Whoever it comes into contact with, it kills them. This is as far as his blessed breath goes. Then when they reach Bayt al-Maqdis, and the Iqamah has already been called. The Iqamah has already been called, and some scholars said that they've already started praying the Fajr prayer. So if you put the narrations together, we had said Isa alayhi salam had descended at al-Dhuhr, or close to the Dhuhr time. Some scholars, they make it a point of saying لِسِتِّ سَاعَاتٍ مَضَتْ مِنْ أَوَّلِ النَّهَارِ, 6 hours into the day that he would descend. Then at Al-Fajr he would reach Bayt al-Maqdis, and the adhan and the iqamah would already have been called for the Fajr prayer, and their Imam, the Khalifa of the time, Al-Mahdi, he would have already stepped forward. And some narrate that he had already started the prayer. He's already done the tahrimah. He said Allahu Akbar, and the prayer has begun. And when Prophet Isa alayhi salam, he approaches them, some of those that haven't already started the prayer, they would notice him, and they would realize who he is, and they would try to usher him forward to lead the prayer. And he says, alayhi salam, imamukum minkum, saying that your imam, the imam is one from the nation of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And then Al-Mahdi, he will start, while he's praying, he will start to come backwards. He will take a step back, gesturing that Prophet Isa alayhi salam should lead. And Prophet Isa alayhi salam puts his blessed hand on the back of Al-Mahdi and says to him, "Innaha laka uqimat." Rather, this prayer, its iqamah was called for you to lead, so lead. And so in this situation, Prophet Isa alayhi salam, he will pray the Fajr prayer behind Al-Mahdi. Although Prophet Isa alayhi salam is a messenger of Allah, right? He has a much higher status, a status that is thousands and thousands of times higher than someone who is pious but not a prophet. But he would pray behind Al-Mahdi to substantiate, to confirm that he will be abiding by the laws that were revealed to Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, and not the laws that were revealed to him, the laws that were revealed to him in Al-Injil. So he will pray behind Al-Mahdi, and this is mentioned in the hadiths of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Now, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam himself had prayed behind people who were not prophets. He prayed behind some of his companions. Towards the end of the life of the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam, he prayed behind our master Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu. And on another occasion he prayed behind another one of the 10 companions that were promised paradise radiyallahu anhum, Abdul Rahman ibn Auf radiyallahu anhu. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam once prayed behind our master Abdul Rahman. So a prophet praying behind a person who's not a prophet, there is no problem in that. But in this situation, just so it's understood, Sayyiduna Isa alayhi salam lets Al-Mahdi lead to show everybody else that he is following the laws revealed to Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. Then after the prayer has been prayed, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, Qala Isa alayhi salam, that Prophet Jesus will say, Iftahul bab, open the door. فَيُفْتَحْ وَوَرَاءَهُ الدَّجَّالِ. They open the door. This is Prophet Isa alayhi salam. So when he says something, it gets done. So they open the door. وَوَرَاءَهُ الدَّجَّالِ. And Dajjal is behind it. مَعَهُ سَبْعُونَ أَلْفَ يَهُودِي. With him 70,000 of the Yahud. And this is that large battle, the final battle that you may have heard of, where the Muslims fight Ad-Dajjal and everybody who accompanies Ad-Dajjal. Ad-Dajjal comes from Ad-Dajjal, the word Ad-Dajjal. Ad-Dajjal means trickery, to be sly and to lie, and it means to trick. So that is what Ad-Dajjal is. Ad-Dajjal is the one that does that a lot. Such is the case, or so much, he does that he's made literally a name for himself. That's why we call him Ad-Dajjal. The Dajjal. It's like saying the trickster, the charlatan. And remember, this is a person who will claim to be God. Each one of them will be carrying a weapon. the Prophet ﷺ said that, and you see how things have shifted now. The Muslims were being besieged and they were about to be wiped out, and suddenly they have now Isa alayhi salam, and things have changed. They open the door, they see Dajjal, and they see the thousands of people with him. As soon as Dajjal sees Prophet Isa alayhi salam, the Prophet mentioned, فَعِندَمَا يَرَى عَدُوُّ اللَّهِ نَبِيَّ اللَّهِ يَذُوبُ كَمَا يَذُوبُ الْمِلْحُ فِي الْمَاءِ. That he starts to literally melt, just as salt would melt in water, and he would scurry away. He would rush off after being on the front line, after being in front, after being on the front line leading all those people. The leader, he runs. So Prophet Isa alayhi salam, he would say to him, "Inna li fika darbatan lan tasbiqani biha," which literally means, I have a hit for you, I have a fatal blow for you, that that you will not beat me to, meaning you won't strike me first. I have a fatal blow for you, because we know he's going to kill Dajjal. And this is in Bayt al-Maqdis, this is in Jerusalem. So Dajjal runs literally for his life, runs and he runs and he runs. Prophet Isa alayhi salam, he catches up with him at the gate of Lud. Lud used to be a village, still in Palestine. It is maybe about 26 miles or kilometers, I forgot now, from Jerusalem. Dajjal, we'd spoken about how he is a charlatan. Look at what Dajjal says. When Dajjal reaches Lud, which still exists today, they spell it L-O-D in Palestine. When he reaches the eastern gate of Lud, and some scholars call it Al-Lud, some historians, they say that it's actually called Al-Lud with Alif Lam in the beginning. So Lud or Al-Lud. The Prophet ﷺ said, when Isa alayhi salam catches him there, and Dajjal knows that he has no way to go, and the Prophet Isa alayhi salam is carrying a spear at this point. Dajjal, you know, like when someone's really worried, like when someone's, I don't know, if someone, even if they're in shallow water, but they think they're drowning, they try to grab onto anything, right? So Dajjal, he's such a trickster. When he knows that this is it, he says to Prophet Isa alayhi salam, or he says to somebody amongst his the people that are there, he says to them, "Aqim as-salah." He says to them, say the iqamah. When he sees Prophet Isa alayhi salam, that's it, he's about to be killed, he says, say the iqamah, somebody. So then he looks at Prophet Isa, he will look at Prophet Isa alayhi salam and say, Ya Nabi Allah, qad uqimat as-salah. He would say, oh Prophet of Allah, indeed the prayer has been called. Meaning pray. What a strange, and even at this point where he knows he's finished, he's trying to play a trick. He tells somebody, say the iqamah, say the iqamah. So someone says the iqamah, and then he says, Ya Nabi Allah, oh Prophet of Allah, qad uqimat as-salah. The prayer has been called, the iqamah has been called. So Prophet Isa alayhi salam will say to him, Ya adu Allah, oh enemy of Allah, za'amta annaka rabbul alameen, faliman tusalli. He will say to him, O enemy of Allah, you claim that you are the Lord of the universe. So who are you praying to? If you claim that you are Allah, and hypothetically, he's asking him rhetorically, if you claim that you are Allah, who is it that you're praying to? And then he strikes him and kills him, and then the blood of Dajjal will be seen by the Muslims on the spear, on the head of the spear of Prophet Isa alayhi salam. Then Prophet Isa alayhi salam, he will return to some of those Muslims that were harmed and were injured and were oppressed and were hungry and were tortured by some of those people, and he will wipe their faces, those that lost their children, those that lost their wives, their mothers. Prophet Isa alayhi salam, he's a prophet of Allah. He's so compassionate and merciful. He will want to take the sadness from their heart, so he'll want to console them, to comfort them. So he will wipe his blessed hand on some of their faces, and that will give them comfort. Then after this, every stone will call out and it will say, Ya Muslim, inna waraiya, O Muslim, behind me there is a blasphemer, ta'al aqtulhu, come and kill him. On that day, Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala will give even stones the ability to be heard, to speak. All the trees and stones, they will speak out, except one tree or one plant. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said, فَإِنَّهُ مِنْ شَجَرِهِمْ. That's because it's one of their trees, so it will not speak out against them. So Isa alayhi salam, he will, we had said that Al-Mahdi, he fights a group of people and he lessens their influence. Isa alayhi salam, he will finally win this final battle. Let's say La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.